I'm rebuilding my epic LEGO city and I'm bringing you all along for the ride. My favourite part of the city is coming back today, but if you missed it, last video was all about the modulars as I built them out of storage and made my first city video in 2.5 years. This series is all about showing you guys what it takes to build a LEGO city like mine, and in this video I'm bringing back the tiled, reflective water alongside a raised platform, train station and more. I seriously can't wait to show you guys the insane progress I've made, starting with adding back one of the best elements of my city, the reflective water. I also built a raised platform and faced one of my biggest fears when it comes to LEGO, building on an angle. Everything turned out amazing despite all the challenges I faced along the way, and I genuinely need your input in some things, so make sure to stick around and give me some feedback. I'd really appreciate it. But now let's start building. Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of rebuilding my LEGO city, and as you heard from the intro, I have so much to complete today. I'm of course going to start with the tiled water plates, which is one of my favourite elements of the layout. A bit later in the video, I'll finish off the tiling to get a seamless reflection across the base plates. It will be good to fill the space where I currently have that construction crew, as well as elevating these 3 buildings with a brick-built platform that you caught a glimpse of in the intro. And as promised, I'm going to be extending these tracks forward and building my very own train station, or rather tram station, at the front of the layout. And this is what those tiled water plates look like. The reflection on them is great, especially when you get right down to water level. I also spent quite a while working out the math for an angled section of the city where my tram station will be located. I thought this was the perfect spot for an angled section as the train track lends itself to angles very well. In between the tram station and the water will be a nice sandy beach which will be full of minifigures enjoying the seaside. Here I've created a quick mock-up of the tram platform as I just want to make sure all the angles work before I build the final version. It attaches at these 6 studs I'm pointing to, and this works perfectly without putting any stress on the pieces. The change in angle from the typical LEGO grid helps make the city look more interesting, and as you can see it's quite satisfying how everything perfectly fits together. I also have this wedge plate over here that very closely matches the angle of the platform, meaning I can integrate it back into the normal grid effectively. And of course the platform matches up with the train tracks perfectly. We'll come back to the tram station a bit later, but moving over to the right side of the city you can see I'm making way for a raised platform. This platform is built entirely out of LEGO bricks, and even though it's not pretty on the inside, it's extremely sturdy. The front is covered in all black so no one will ever see those coloured pieces. It slides in perfectly as the dimensions were all measured, and the building sits on top nicely with a gradual increase in height from the park on the right up to the brick bank. The raised area looks neat and tidy from the front with the black facade covering the internal structure, and it helps differentiate the water level from the building level. For anyone looking to raise just a small area like mine in their city, I'd highly recommend you build it out of bricks. Coming back to the tram platform, you can see I've upgraded my mock-up platform to an almost final design. I went for a mix of tiles and plates to give it texture, and I really like how it turned out. As you can see, the platform still sits perfectly along the side of the tracks, and the angle becomes more apparent when you get down low to the ground. Now I'm installing a structure that will house the platform's roof. It was important that I use some sort of transparent piece on the roof, as I wanted light to still come down onto the platform. This is also very common in real life public transport stops. Moving the tram back to its spot at the platform, you can see the height of the platform and the roof work together perfectly. And don't worry, this tram design is an old work in progress. In a future video, I'll make sure to finish it. Now I've tiled underneath the platform with dark tan to simulate dirt. The platform looks awesome sitting seamlessly on the tiles. And taking a look back over at the raised area, I've begun building a wall to fill in the gap between the water and the building. I wasn't able to get the 2x2 tiles to go right to the water level, but I'm trying to work with the pieces I have on hand. Also, it's barely noticeable until you get right down to the water level anyway. In this time lapse I'm planning out the water line and starting to fill in some of the wet sand with dark tan. And with the 2 big 16x16 plates added on top, you can start to get an idea of what the beach will look like when completed. I added this small rock to blend in the corner of the big tan plate, but I'll be able to fill in the rest of the area with tan and dark tan plates to make the beach look natural. The colour scheme of this area is coming together now, with mostly sandy tones and small pops of colour, and I'm happy with the shape of the water line which closely follows the angle of the tram platform. Here you can see I've built a few more layers of the wet sand, and even though I didn't time-lapse this, I promise you there will be more time-lapses very soon. I also built this small green plant out of bamboo pieces and headlight bricks. A couple of these will help fill in the garden between the platform and the beach. I'm really liking how this area is progressing, but now let's move back to the raised area where I've extended the footpath out over the water with some of these great pieces. This is one thing I'm not really sure about and would appreciate your feedback on. I've also thought about just tiling the entire thing and moving that grey wall out from underneath instead of having these brick pillars. This would remove some of the water by extending the land portion, but I think it might look cleaner and more realistic than the current design, so please let me know in the comments. Going back to the beach, I've used the other wedge plate to instead have the platform continue to the right. I think this would be a good option for creating a pier going out into the water, but let me know in the comments which way you'd prefer the tram platform to continue, the right or back towards the road and footpath. I've also added a few more details like these plants on top of the rock. Overall, this area is shaping up very nicely. Here I've mocked up what the area could look like eventually when I've placed a few more buildings. Of course, let me know your thoughts and suggestions in the comments, but now, what you've all been waiting for, it's time for some satisfying time lapses as I finish tiling the water. And there we have it, the water is pretty much done. I've built a small temporary wall here, but I think I'll eventually continue the light blue water along and build some sort of rock face. I spent way longer building this than I'd planned, so I'm sorry, but I will have to finish rebuilding the city in another video. Still left to complete is the area around the tram stop, the park beside the raised area, and all the details around the streets, so stay tuned for part 3 of rebuilding the Lego city. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing so you don't miss part 3. And if you haven't already, check out some of my older videos to get an idea of what the city will look like when it's finished. This has been part 2 of the Lego City rebuild, and I hope to see you all again in part 3.